That's the first thing that everybody will see.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, of course you don't. That's why you do it. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, November 15th, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. There you go.
And I'm Michael Agello, minus the cough. And this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. A lot of news today, some games to discuss from yesterday, but we're going to start with a curious comment that I believe it was at that Primetime Sports conference that's being held in Toronto. This is the one that Brian Burke started when he was GM of the Maple Leafs. You know, he drew some attention to himself with some comments about the Toronto media earlier in the week. But Gary Bettman was at this conference and stated something that is very ominous for more than just the next Olympics in Pyeongchang. We're talking about the NHL in the Olympics going forward, Russ, and his comments were not encouraging.
No, I mean, it basically, to me, it closed the door, and it seemed like the IOC closed the door because when the IOC basically made the play that, well, if you're not showing up in 2018, don't expect to be invited in 2022, and Gary Bettman was like, okay. And it seems like that's what the owners want. And I think that's the key point. I know there's going to be this prevailing thought, oh, he's just negotiating, whatever. No, the owners don't want to go anymore because they're tired of dealing with the IOC, tired of not getting anything on their end and just giving away their players and stopping the season. Stopping the season has been the sore point for a very long time, even when the players were going and everybody was okay with it.
Right. The owners don't want to go unless they get something. And that's my point of view. And the thing is, that's the reason they didn't go to Pyeongchang is because they weren't given any kind of preferential treatment like the NBA is given and NBA players are given during the Summer Olympics. You know, the NHL's got to stop their season, as you said, for 2 weeks in the middle of the year. The IOC apparently laughed at the suggestion.
I mean, future NBA players were just in China, but they had to stay a few extra days because they stole some sunglasses. But, you know.
Yeah. You know, the NBA, it's during the off season. The NHL apparently broached the idea with the IOC of switching to the Summer Olympics, and they thought that was humorous because the hockey tournament is the central, other than, you know, figure skating and ice dancing, in terms of a team sport, it's central.
You know what's funny, though?
The Olympics.
Yes, but you know what's funny? If you had the ice hockey, because it really doesn't matter what time of the year you play ice hockey, let's face it. We're in the 21st century. It really doesn't matter because they did used to play Olympic hockey outdoors. Like we saw that there were some outdoor games way back in the day.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if this replaced synchronized swimming, who cares? That would be fine.
Yeah, but what I told you before we started the show, what I think is going on here, and maybe I'm off base, but Gary Bettman and Donald Fehr would not have gone to China to announce a preseason game between, what was it, LA and Anaheim? I can't remember what teams it was. But they wouldn't have gone all that way if it was just for that. They went there to talk to the representatives of the Chinese government. And I'm telling you right now, this isn't over because the Chinese government, especially after what's going to happen in South Korea, I will bet you anything that the hockey will be a ratings disaster for the Olympics, for NBC, for CBC, and there will be pressure put on by the broadcast networks who pay money to the IOC to say, okay, if you're not going to get NHL players, we're not going to pay you as much money.
I firmly disagree, only because once I heard the magic words, the owners don't want to stop the season, and they were pretty close to unanimous, apparently. I think that overrides whatever they might make or anything else. I think they're just over it. I really do.
Well, I mean, maybe they don't see a benefit in it anymore. I mean, that's very, very possible.
I mean, considering now that their own tournament has had some success and they expect that to do better with the World Cup of Hockey, I think that's also the other reason because, you know, that is money directly in their players and their pockets, and they don't get the season stopped. That's why I think that's the route they're going. But I will say this.
Go ahead.
In these next Winter Olympics that are coming up February 15th, it's really the women's hockey that I think is going to take center stage. And I'll tell you for a couple of reasons. I know there are always Neanderthals out there that say, well, the men's hockey will have better ratings, whatever. Here's the thing. Team USA versus Team Canada is a real rivalry. Mm-hmm. These teams do not like each other. The U.S. has won a fair amount. They've won 8 gold medals in World Championships, but they haven't won the gold medal since 1998 with Cami Granato. Like, it's been that long. And this team is really talented. I just posted an article on sportsology.com with Hillary Knight, and she talks about it. Like, this team is very, very focused on beating Canada. I can't guarantee you that it's going to happen. And I know people are like, well, it doesn't happen because the U.S. always wins the world championship, whatever. You know what? That's the rhetoric that used to go around about the regular men's team, and they did win in 80. So you never can say never, and I think this will get better ratings than the men's hockey. If U.S. faces Canada in a gold medal game, that will be the big ratings draw.
Yeah, and it's completely unaffected by anything that's going on because the NHL has nothing to do with women's hockey.
Yeah, because what's the rivalry other than maybe the U.S. doesn't like Russia, right? But these players play in a Russian league, some of them. Maybe not. We don't know if the KHL is going to lend their players yet.
Right.
And they at least play in Europe. How much hate is a couple of guys from European rosters playing against some Russian guys that they may never have played against? How much hate's going to get built up there? Nothing.
Well, there was no hate in 1980. It was all external. It was all the Russians invading Afghanistan, the U.S. going through an energy crisis. A lot of people thought that the U.S. was going down, like an empire was going down the way the Romans did and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, well, and that made us feel good for a few moments until Reagan won the election in 1980 and turned the country around. But I
think as the events unfolded in 80, the players started to dislike that Russian teams for a lot of different reasons.
It was David versus Goliath. It was, they were assumed to win it because they killed the NHL All-Stars in the Challenge Cup in 1979. They destroyed them. They destroyed them in the Canada Cup in 1981. So before and after, that team was superb. Things didn't click into place in Lake Placid in 1980. But if you look, the U.S. has been unable to repeat that performance. 84, 88. They got to the gold medal game in 2010, obviously against the Canadians. But and same thing in 2002. But I see.
I think these games for the men's part is going to just be like a notch above club hockey, and how many of us go out of our way to watch that?
It's the Spengler Cup.
Yeah,
that's what this. I said 6 months ago that these rosters would be Spengler Cup like, except for the Russians will get all their KHL players, and Kovalchuk and Datsuk will play there unless Putin is unable to leverage the KHL participation to keep his team from being kicked out because of meldonium or whatever the hell drug they were taking a few years ago. So it'll be interesting, and we won't really know about 2022 probably until 2021.
I think we know now. I really do.
Yeah, I think Bettman did what he wanted to do. He put it out there that was the stance, but I think
that's not a good negotiating tactic if you think about it.
Right.
Saying they said take it or leave it, and we left it. Like, usually, I'm telling you, that's not a great negotiation.
Well, no, the next move is the IOCs. The next move.
I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if you read further in it or not. I did. The only door that was left open was if the Olympics were in North America, they would consider that again.
Yeah, and
that's why I think they're done with it for now.
I don't think that they've announced the 2026 Winter Olympics. I know that obviously 2022 is in China.
But if they announced it, like somehow it's in LA or somewhere in Canada.
Calgary supposedly is going to.
Yeah, I mean, so then I think there would be a change of heart.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some things that happened last night. But after the Buzzcast, and I think it happened around after 6 o'clock, closer to game times. The Edmonton Oilers and LA Kings made a straight up 1-for-1 deal, and it was curious, Russ, because Mike Camilleri, former King, signs back with the Kings for a cheap contract, $1 million. UC Jokinen got bought out of a contract, signs with Edmonton. Around the same amount. They get flipped 1-for-1. Jokinen going to the Kings, Camilleri going to the Oilers. If you look strictly on the statistics of the two players, Camilleri has 7 points, 3 goals, 4 assists, but apparently was a healthy scratch recently. Jokinen has 1 assist in 14 games. Now, you look at the teams and what their needs.
It's not like LA's looking to shed salary. Like they're basically looking at Camilleri. I'll tell you what. You want to know why they traded Camilleri? Because LA's deal is they want to push the play. They want to be the pace setters in the game. You can't do that with Mike Camilleri in the lineup anymore.
Well, they have enough slower guys in the lineup right now.
Right.
I mean,
you don't want another one in Camilleri.
Right, and even
though we call Toffoli slower, he gets to spots quickly and doesn't really slow them down. But Camilleri, he's slowing them down.
And same with Kopitar and same with Dustin Brown. But they're playing. If it's possible to be a below average skater or maybe an average skater and play a more up tempo game, that's what they're doing. They've inserted the Iafallos and the Kempes.
And Jokinen's a better skater than Camilleri at this point in time. He is.
I see. I think it's more the fact that Camilleri was not playing a top 6 role. He was playing more of a third line role, and Jokinen's a better fit as a third line guy than Camilleri is. And from Edmonton's point of view, we know that Edmonton has been looking for a right winger to play in the top 6, and more than likely they got Camilleri to either put on McDavid's line or to put on Draisaitl's line. If they didn't, the deal makes no sense. He's a scorer. Maybe he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a scorer, and that's what they need. And they absolutely have to move Draisaitl and McDavid on separate lines. Otherwise, their offense is not diversified.
Right. I agree with that. And I also think now that if this doesn't work, then Todd McLellan's job will be in trouble. I think this is the one trade that gives him a second chance here, and then I think after that he'll be in the hot seat.
I mean, this is a tinkering move. It's not.
No, but still, I mean, if we're past, just for lack of a better term, not trying to force it in, American Thanksgiving, if we're past that and Edmonton's not really any better, Todd McLellan's job's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think that they've gone down that road a couple times already. I mean, okay, can you say that they've how
many coaches did Alex Ovechkin technically, get fired because he didn't win a Stanley Cup? It's not his fault, but because of expectations and everything else, quite a few.
2, at least to 3. Well, Dale Hunter was a replacement.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
Glenn Hanlon, but that was early on. Bruce Boudreau, because he couldn't get him. And now, if they fire Barry Trotz in next year too.
So when a team is Connor McDavid, and this is not Connor McDavid's fault, but because of expectations,
may replace Hanlon with Adam Oates, because Adam Oates was another.
Yes. So it's 3, and it seems like McDavid's going down that same path again because of the expectations that are brought because of the way he plays, not because of him. It's not his fault. It's the rest of the team around them.
Now, bunch of games last night. I watched more than I usually watch, a number of them, just to because I just seem to get engrossed in the game. Sometimes there's a night when there's not a lot to pull you in, and last night was not one of those nights. I got pulled into a few games. Blue Jackets and Canadiens. Columbus wins 2-1 in overtime on a Zach Werenski goal. Now, Russ, my pointed criticism of the Montreal Canadiens. They were stoned, and okay. Bobrovsky's one of the best goaltenders in the league.
That save on Delarose was the save of the year, man.
Yeah,
like that.
And it was.
Here's something go ahead, I'll let you finish your point.
No, they were stoned by Columbus. Stoned until late in the third period when Byron gets a goal to tie it.
Yeah, that was a fortuitous goal too. That was just a really they finally got a rebound, it seemed.
I mean, but this is the funny thing is like all the talk recently is about Montreal. If they're going out to make a trade, is to make a trade for defensive help. Are you kidding me? When this team can't generate offense.
Yeah, it's offense. And they did get a point, right?
They did get a point.
They did get a point, which in today's NHL is something. Here's the thing. Bobrovsky, we've seen goalies like Quick who could literally cover post to post in the splits, but I don't think we've ever seen one like Bobrovsky when he's in the middle of the crease and he could still cover beyond the post in the splits. And that's what that save took. And when you are covering that much ground as a goalie, you get in shooters' heads. You do.
Yeah, and I think it was Byron actually who he stopped. Byron broke his stick.
It was Del Rose, I think, on that.
I thought, well, okay. All I know is Paul Byron was robbed
he was robbed at another point, I believe, and he did get a goal too, like you said.
Yeah, and he broke his stick and almost broke his helmet on the bench.
Yeah.
So I mean, the frustration level is increasing in Montreal, understandably so.
But Bobrovsky is the best goalie in hockey right this moment. He is. Him and Dubnyk are the two extremely hot goalies right now. We'll talk about Dubnyk later, but the thing about Columbus is they're not scoring either.
Well, Wenberg was out.
Okay, but still, they're not scoring anyhow.
No.
And Bobrovsky had to steal them a point recently.
But that's sort of in Tortorella's bailiwick. He loves 2-1 games. He loves that tight hockey. I mean,
now, did Milano play in that game? Because I understand he's
Milano did play. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because I understand he's tinkering around with Milano a little bit. Hopefully, he doesn't, mess around too much with that. But hey, the goal by Werenski was great. But again, it's not like John Tortorella is reinventing the wheel. What he is doing with Zach Werenski is what Herb Brooks did with Brian Leetch in his rookie year, and just let him do whatever he wanted to do offensively, and the other guys would cover up for him. Werenski is in his second year, so he's a little better defensively than Leetch was early on, but is essentially allowed to just go on in and be another forward anytime he wants.
Now, Charlie Lindgren makes the start, gets the loss, played pretty well. I mean, no doubt. He's playing again tonight, or playing in the next game against Arizona. I think I'm not sure if it's tonight or if it's on Thursday.
That's how you know they need the points desperately, because most teams would be playing their backup against Arizona, but really they don't have a backup they could trust.
Well, they have Antti Niemi, but apparently they don't, that.
Okay, Antti Niemi is right now behind glass, and it says emergency, break only if an emergency.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's really what Antti Niemi is.
I just thought that yesterday, the fact that Price came out and talked to the media and said he'd had a minor setback, but it would only be a few days, and then in the same breath, the organization picks up Antti Niemi. I haven't read it yet, but Elliot Friedman on his 31 Thoughts was basically saying, is Price and the Canadiens on the same page? Because we know how important Carey Price is to the Canadiens. We know that he has to be healthy for that team to make the playoffs. And, they made a sort of a slight turnaround here with Lindgren in goal. But honestly, that probably is not going to last, because Lindgren, he's a young goaltender. I think he's got some potential. I think he could be an NHL backup, maybe a starter, but someplace else, because they're not going to trade Price, and Price is going to be there for a long time. But if this team's going to make the playoffs, it's going to be with Carey Price. And I think they're being exceedingly careful. But you know what? He's 30 years old, and he's had knee problems, and this is apparently a knee problem.
Yeah, the weird part about it is he hasn't played since like November 2nd, whatever that game was against the Wild. And since then, it's just, he's a little banged up, and then he comes out and says, I just need a few more days. But he's not even practicing. If you need a few more days and you're practicing with the team, then you might get in the lineup soon. But he's probably a few more days just from skating again, and then he might not get in the lineup for 2 more weeks. So they're stuck with Antti Niemi for 30 days. So are they really going to carry 3 goalies for 30 days, or is Price going to miss the next 3 weeks? And they're really only going to carry Niemi 1 extra week as a third goalie. That seems like that's probably what's going to happen here.
Now, I know the NHL doesn't have retroactive injured reserve, but I'm surprised that they haven't put him on injured reserve if it's a day-to-day thing. But
again, I think if they put him on injured reserve, it becomes a bigger story.
Yeah. Yes. Right. That's true. Okay. Some other games. I watched this one particularly because high scoring, no defense.
I know what it is. The Buffalo Sabres.
Buffalo Sabres and Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh wins 5-4 in overtime on a Connor Sheary goal. I have to say, Robin Lehner made some unbelievable saves in this game. He faced 45 shots. This is one game where I can't really see criticizing him, even if he gave up a bad goal or two, because he was just being bombarded. The Sabres defense is.
Although he had that really bad clear that led to a goal that's on him.
Yeah, well, so he did, and Luongo did in the game against Dallas. Oh my God, he put it. And we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, I mean, 45 shots, Russ, and Ristolainen is out. They got Scandella back last night, and Scandella.
It doesn't matter.
Right, Scandella got suspended, or sorry, not suspended. He got fined $5,000 a day because he took basically a baseball swing at Patrick Hornquist.
You know what I noticed? I didn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights. What I noticed is the Sabres defense is slow. And against a team like Pittsburgh, they got behind them pretty easy, and there seemed to be a lot of 2-on-1s, and there seemed to be a lot of, like, basically not giving goals, but similar goals like that, where they're literally, like with Crosby and Sheary going down the wing and just deciding how they're going to score it.
I mean, here you go. This was the defense last night for the Sabres. Josh Georges, Marco Scandella, Jake McCabe, Taylor Fadoon, Justin Falk, and Nathan Beaulieu.
And that's the other Justin Falk, the really slow one. Not
the good Justin Falk.
Right.
The not so good Justin Falk. But the thing is, Fadoon and Falk played a lot last year for them because their defense was so devastated by injuries. And right now it's like, I mean, Josh Georges played 22 minutes. Scandella, coming off an injury, played 26.
And until Beaulieu shows us more, the bottom four is an AHL defense.
Yeah. So
they're not going to win games with that.
No.
Not, and I don't know how long Ristolainen's out, but it's unfortunate.
I think they announced week to week.
And it's unfortunate because they had so little depth at that position to begin with.
Right.
Where's Bogosian? You didn't say his name. What's he out
with? He hasn't played a game all season.
All season. He's been out all year. And the funny thing is I'm going to be honest. He's been out all year, and I haven't even noticed because that's how
it's noticeable when he plays because he's so freaking bad.
Yeah.
That again, I say
what's his injury? I don't even know.
I don't even know.
I gotta look it up. This is crazy. All right.
You look it up. But the one thing that again, it was all one line. They had Kane playing with Eichel and Reinhart at times. I know that they'd played Pominville on that line previously. But the talk about Kane, he's having a good year. He's having his second good year in a row. Talk around Buffalo about, are they going to re-sign him? Are they going to trade him? It's a little early, and we're going to talk about a list that TSN came out with regarding teams that were looking for forwards. Obviously, Kane is one of those players that if a team is looking for forwards and they're looking for a rental, that's the guy that they want to trade. But that kind of deal, Russ, if they're going to trade Kane, it's going to have to blow them away. It's going to have to be 2 or 3 pieces and young pieces and make it worth their while.
Here's the quote that we have on Zach Bogosian. This is really bad. This is from Phil Housley from November 7th. He's moved back to day-to-day now with his injury. He's making progress. This is November 7th, mind you. He's been skating now 2 or 3 days, which is encouraging. But that was November 7th. And he's still waiting to make his season debut.
But we don't know what it is.
It's a lower body injury, so whatever it is, knee or groin, he can't even get on the ice.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't follow the Sabres preseason.
That's another tough break for them, and
I mean, everybody assumes that right now the contract that's going to get bought out in the summer is going to be Matt Molson because he's got a year left, and
I think that's true.
The contract was front loaded. I would not be surprised if they bought out Bogosian too. I think he's got 2 years. Yeah, 2 years left at over $5 million, and he's been an anchor, an albatross ever since that trade.
Especially if Gooley's playing well at the AHL level and gets Well,
what this also shows, they haven't called up Gooley, and that basically means he's too young. He's not ready. We want him to play every day in the AHL. We want him to mature.
And they want him to play big minutes. That's the thing.
Right, exactly. Well, right now with the injury,
I guess he could play big minutes now. Yeah,
but they don't want to expose him to it. So
right.
that's a good thing. Panthers beat the Dallas Stars 4-3 in a shootout. Number that stands out here: 43 shots on goal for the Dallas Stars. Luongo, I said before, Luongo set up. I think he put the puck right on Jamie Ben's. I think it was or Radulowski. I think it was Jamie Benn who scored the goal. It looked pretty bad, but Panthers. I mean, with Luongo back, this team has a chance.
Right.
Jonathan Huberdeau scored a couple goals, but we're talking about a 38-year-old Luongo.
That's the thing. I mean, and he might be out again in a month, right? Just as they claw back.
Yeah, it's tough to really, base your team's future on somebody. I mean, he's a great goaltender, there's no doubt, but on somebody that may not be there. Yeah, it was Huberdeau with 2 goals, Barkov with a goal. And then in the shootout, Barkov and Vincent Trocheck scored. Dallas, I mean, again, I think this team's got a lot of talent. They made some additions.
I don't think they're totally working Hitchcock's system to the degree that it should yet.
Yeah, they're not fully formed yet, and that's the strange thing. And they played
Bishop's playing well. Bishop's playing fine.
Right, they played Kerry Lettinen last night, which that gives you a hint why they lost.
Yeah.
The Nashville Predators beat the Washington Capitals 6-3. The old matchup against Barry Trotz playing against his old team.
Barry Trotz's job is in trouble if they don't do anything this year. There's no question in my mind.
Well, once they've gotten now that Bonino is back, they've got Turris, they've got Johansson. They're up the middle. They have the team that they were aiming for. Bonino was back last night, got a goal.
No, I mean that's good for Nashville. I'm saying on the Washington end,
right.
Trotz is going to be in trouble if things don't start to click. I mean, I was just talking.
I don't. Well, okay, but
I was just talking about it on Sirius, and Mike Johnson made a good point that he thinks it's a depth issue. I thought their depth was going to be covered with guys like Verana, and it hasn't really happened. And like Chason now is getting fair amount of playing time and had an assist in that game. I don't know if you can count on Alex Chason, but I think we did count on Lars Eller, who was good last year. And where is he this year? Like I don't think Lars Eller is pulling his end, and that's a guy that I thought was a significant upgrade 2 years ago over Mike Richards. But like, what the hell's he doing?
I mean, he's got 11 points in 18 games, so it's not terrible. I mean, that's actually offensively more than I usually expect out of Lars Eller. But no, I think depth is a problem. I mean, when you're playing,
defense, we know defense is a problem.
Yeah, when you're playing Chandler Stevenson and you're playing Devontae Smith-Pelly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Stevenson's got 6 points in 10 games, so they're getting something out of him right now. It was both Grubauer and Holtby.
Well, who started, I guess?
I believe it was Holtby.
Okay. So that's the thing. I mean, even Holtby has not been tremendous this year.
No, he hasn't. And I mean,
to be, for a lack of a better term, this team is in the same spot that Minnesota's in, and Devin Dubnyk is now starting to carry Minnesota. He has to carry Washington until Ovechkin and Kuznetsov get hot again. I mean, they're still getting some points, and I don't want to say they get garbage points, but it just seems like they're not all getting points at the right time.
No, good segue here. Dubnyk gets his 3rd shutout in a row in a 3-0 win over the Flyers. I don't know how much you watched.
Home with the Flyers. The last time this happened with the Flyers, I saw the stat, and Manny Fernandez, and I couldn't see who the other goalie was.
Dwayne Rolison, probably.
Were the ones who did it.
Well, I don't know. Did you see any of that game? Because I
saw just the highlights. And look, Scott Lawton had a good game. I mean, Dubnyk was covering that post like nothing could get past him. And the way he's got a big shin pad already. And when he's got it against the post like that, it's hard, man. He's like like a telephone pole. But he really looks good now, getting across the crease. And, the Wild, I will say this, the Wild's defense was definitely looked like it was playing well. And they wait for their spots. You know what I mean? Like they pick their spots, and they try and do it. The one funny play, and I think this is the second time I've seen it happen this year, Dale Weiss had a breakaway, and of course he didn't score. I mean, Dale Weiss breakaways are not going to be good for the Flyers.
The battle of the former Winnipeg Jets against the Winnipeg Jets, the Jets and the Coyotes, 4-1 victory for the current Jets. Brian Little, Adam Lowry, Andrew Kopp, and Joel Armia with the goals. Connor Hellebuyck was the first star of the game.
Joel Armia. Now, he was a guy.
First-round pick of the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I always felt like people just dumped on him too quickly. He's been effective, I think, for Winnipeg.
But the thing was that when he was drafted by Buffalo, the talk was, oh, here's a next power forward.
Okay,
and
I mean,
the scoring,
really good.
Yeah, the scoring aspect has never shown up with Armia, but he's a big body. He can skate,
and he's good defensively.
So he's a good, I'd say, third line winger, and there's nothing wrong with that. So he's a useful NHL player in that deal. That's not.
He's only 24. Like, it's not like we're talking about a guy like last year he had 19 points, right? Mm-hmm. This year he's got 4. He might get 20-something points. That's pretty good.
The Sabres, I mean, we got to remember, Armia was drafted prior. I think he was a Darcy Regier draft pick, and Tim Murray was the one who made the trade, and they didn't like the way Armia was playing in Rochester, so that's why he was included in that package. That was the package that went for Kane and Bogosian.
Yeah.
On the other side here, the Coyotes, 2 wins in, I believe it's now 2-15-3.
I don't know what else to say. They don't have a regulation win.
No, and
they don't have a regulation win. I mean, think about that. Yeah. Where we are right now in the season, they don't have a regulation win. Like, think about other sports. If this were like the New York Yankees and they didn't have a win at this point in the season, which is probably impossible for baseball, right? But like a month and a half in, their manager would be fired.
Yeah, right? No, they're the San Francisco 49ers of the NHL. Right. Who got their first win against the hapless New York Giants.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, Russ, we were talking about this with Kevin on Monday, and even mentioned it yesterday, and now today, listening to people like Bob McKenzie, who I have a lot of respect for, and Pierre Maguire made an appearance on TSN Radio, and they were talking about Oliver Ekman-Larsson and how long Oliver Ekman-Larsson is going to want to stay with an organization that clearly has no concept of how to win.
Yep.
And now from what they're saying, and I haven't watched a lot of Coyotes games, but from what they're saying, Ekman-Larsson's play, has something to do with the fact that this team is going nowhere, and also this may be a little bit of residual effect from how Shane Doan was treated as he went out the door. Like really not there's really not a good business model here when it comes to the Coyotes, at least on the ice, because they made a bunch of additions. They added Derek Stepan, they added a goaltender, they traded for Jason Demers and Yarmulson, tried to upgrade their defense, tried to upgrade up the middle, have a lot of young players, and it's going absolutely nowhere.
Here's the thing too, they have set a record like that, 20 games without a regulation win. They're the first team in NHL history to do that.
And that's including like the 74-75 Washington expansion Capitals.
Awful.
What do they have, 8 victories? I think it was something like that. 8. 62 Mets. No, just kidding. Now the game.
Here's the amazing thing, though. We do have to say this at least once, but the fact that Clayton Keller has 17 points and 11 goals on this team is a minor miracle.
Yep. To me, he's the leading candidate for the Calder.
Yeah.
Now,
it's a minor miracle. It really is.
Now, if let's say this. Or
wait, I gotta say this. They do not have one plus player on the roster.
Well, let me ask you this: if they go,
Dylan Strome is a 0 because he played 2 games.
If they go like 10, 60, and 12, something like that, just like some ridiculous.
I get shivers thinking about this.
Like, but if they do that, does that affect? If Keller has a 60-point season and they finish with 32 points, Does that affect his chances at the Calder?
No. If he's anywhere near the scoring clip that he's at now, he's going to have 30 goals. You're not going to be able to deny him.
Okay. In the game that X said spoke a lot about the future of the team, the Edmonton Oilers pummeled the Vegas Golden Knights 8-2.
And they needed to. We pointed out that yesterday.
Yeah, Connor McDavid with 2 goals and an assist. Now, they're down to their 5th string goaltender, Russ.
Yeah, so this was Dylan.
No. Maxime Lagacé got hurt, apparently.
Okay.
And Dylan Ferguson had to come in.
Ferguson came in, yeah.
And now Ferguson will get the start probably because they have nobody else.
The poor kid.
I guess on Twitter he basically tweeted out like a dream come true that he's starting in the NHL as a 19-year-old. Well, it may not be a dream for long if they get pummeled, but I mean, it's his goal to play in the NHL, and that's gonna be it'll be a great story, and I hope he wins. But yeah, this is getting to the point of ridiculousness. I mean, I've never seen a string where so many goaltenders. The whole Edmonton Oilers in 2006 during the playoffs, and that was one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 20 games into the season, and they're on their 5th goalie.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Edmonton 8 goals. That has to help out with their confidence, and I'm sure now Camilleri comes in. Not sure where they'll be playing him in the lineup, but I don't think right now it's not over with in terms of the concern about the Edmonton Oilers because that they lose their next game. It's right back.
No, this is just they beat a team they had to beat. Right. So now we lay off them. They fattened up on their stats, and that's it. We wait and see what they do against a good team.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to say, well, the Vegas Knights are a good team. Okay, fine. If you want to say that, that's fine.
And in a late night game, the Vancouver Canucks come back from down 2-0 and win.
Could you say it with any less meaning? Seriously.
No, I can.
It's not like John Sterling calling a Mets Yankees game, and when the Met hits the home run, it's like they don't even get a good call.
It is high. It is far. It is.
No, they don't get that. They just get
no. Don't give me the John Sterling stuff because if you ever hear Dave Mishkin, the Tampa Bay announcer, when the other team scores, it's like he's had a stroke when Victor Hedman scores.
Right.
And Sidney Crosby over the line, shot, score. That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a play-by-play announcer, and in my early in my life, that was my dream to be, but I would be a little more enthused if it was the other.
I would be a down-the-middle guy, and I wouldn't care what the home team tells me, even if it affected my job. Like even if they threatened me, I wouldn't care.
They want the homer. They want the homer.
I can't be that homer.
Yeah, but I mean, Vancouver, I have to give them some credit. They've surprised me so far, but.
This is begrudging credit, folks.
They're begrudging, but don't get me wrong. When they inevitably go into the tank, I'll definitely say that I called it.
Here's another thing, just so we could give the Canucks fans a little love here. Michael DiPietro looked awfully good in the Canada-Russia Super Series. He got a win in the game he played, and that's pretty good that they got him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, no.
Him and Thatcher Demko, they're set up for goaltending for a while now.
Yeah, but wasn't the criticism of DiPietro that he wasn't we know the big goaltender is the trend.
Yeah, so far it's not been an issue. So all I could do was mention what his height is or supposed height is, but he looked good in that game. So until it affects his play, I can't talk about it.
On the World Junior page, just briefly for a moment, because Bob McKenzie just tweeted out Michael McLeod, former 1st-round pick of the New Jersey Devils. He was on the Devils injured reserve list because I think he got injured during training camp.
Yeah.
He's been activated and now been sent back to Mississauga of the OHL. Yeah, he'll definitely make Canada. Yeah, and if you look at it this way, for Buffalo, here is a pretty good top 3 when it comes to Team Canada for Sam Steele is their number 1 center, McLeod and Robert Thomas from the Blues. That's not too shabby.
No, I kind of wonder if the U.S. is going to invite Jack Hughes. He's having such a good year that I kind of wonder now, will he at least get an invite so they could get a peek at him? He's 17, but, I'd do it.
Well, there is. I mean, they've done it before. I mean, Austin Matthews was there. I mean, Austin Matthews is a bigger player. They were talking about Jack Hughes today on one of the shows that I listened to in the morning, and 5'10" and 165 pounds, I believe, but he's lightning quick and has great hockey IQ. So, yeah, I mean, it's very possible.
He's got 15 points in 6 games.
Yeah, it's.
I think you got to look at him.
Yeah, it's very possible. Now, one of the things that I said earlier, TSN, the insiders, Drager, LeBron, and McKenzie were talking about teams out there looking for forward help.
Do they get an insider's jacket? Like when you become one of the insiders, do you get like a?
It's not like the Hockey Night in Canada. I would back in the day, I would have killed for that powder blue jacket with the inside. I loved. I
think what happens is, even if you got a jacket from the insiders, I think the insiders patch would be on the inside portion of the jacket.
There you go.
Because they don't want to advertise it.
I mean, I don't know if the powder blue Hockey Night in Canada jacket is in like Dave Hodges' closet, but I would
let's see what they sell for on eBay. Those jackets.
I would love one of those jackets. It would just be
like a good Christmas bonus from HockeyBuzz, to be honest.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be great. But the insiders, the TSN insiders, talked about a number of teams, and they listed 10 that were looking for forward help. Obviously before the trade deadline, because some of these teams I think are contenders. Some of these teams are desperate because of injury or because they've had problems scoring goals for lengthy periods of time. Let's take I would put these. We'll go through the list quickly here. Anaheim and Boston. Both of these teams are injury related because Anaheim is without Kessler, is without Getzlaf, is without Patrick Eaves. Fowler is a defenseman, obviously, but he's an offense generator. So they're having trouble scoring goals. And when Raquel and Silverberg were playing sort of behind, or having Kessler and Getzlaf take some of the heat off of them, they were allowed to generate offense as a secondary source in the playoffs. But now they're counted on, and now they're drawing checkers. It's tough for them to score. And in Boston, they're without Backus and they're without David Krejci, who basically makes Bergeron be the number one center. And we know Bergeron is better as the matchup guy and the number 2.
Yeah, they definitely need something. But again, are they really going to give up a key defender for that? I don't know. That's the thing. I think they're sort of waiting it out.
Well, I mean, both of those teams have things in common. They have a pretty good stockpile of young prospects. If you look at Boston, you've got Sinishin, you've got Zaboral, you've got Jake DeBrusk, who's playing with them right now. But they're not trading Charlie McAvoy. They're probably not trading Brandon Carlo, but they have organizational depth, quality depth that they could trade, and they probably will have to trade if they're going to get a forward. With Anaheim, Sam Steele, they're probably not moving him because he's a really, really good prospect and led the WHL in scoring last year.
And he looked good again in the Canada-Russia series too.
Right, and Jakob Larson, who was their first-round pick from a couple years ago, with the defense they have right now, I mean, I don't know how well he's doing in Sweden, but with what they have right now with Montour and Fowler and Vatanen and Lindholm, that might be a piece that they would have to move to get an impact forward before the deadline.
Probably not for a rental, though. They probably need to get a guy at least with a year on the deal.
I agree. Now,
by the way, I just tweeted out holidays are coming and a picture of that blue blazer, $149, but it's sold out at this one particular website. Not terrible. Sharp-looking blazer.
Damn it. Come on.
But I tagged X, so it gives him something to shop for.
There you go. I'll wear it on our New Year's Day show.
There you
go. The Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, I think, and this is based on something Eck reported and on the things that were just out there. They were in on Matt Duchene, and I think that they're looking for help up the middle. The question is, I mean, he's tied them to a Tyler Bozak, which I don't know whether the Leafs are right now going to trade with Austin Matthews just coming back from an injury. But that's a team where and I watched last night, they're using Dubois on the wing. They're not using him at center, and I don't think that that's the plan. So I don't know if the center that they have in mind is really out there right now to trade for.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with that. I don't know if there is a center out there that's worth trading for.
Yeah, I mean, not the guy. Like, I mean, John Tavares is out there in terms of him being a UFA, but I don't think the Islanders are trading him.
No, he's not getting traded.
Edmonton, now they did pick up Camilleri, but if you don't buy into the fact that Camilleri is not a top six winger, or at least they're not going to try as a stopgap to use him in a top six role. I mean, he is, I believe, 35 years old, so he's a little long in the tooth. Again, Edmonton here, I think they need help on defense too, more than they need help at forward. But if Camilleri is not a Band-Aid on their problem, then really, I think now they've called up Puljujarvi. Could they have called him up basically as a showcase? Because if they're going to get
it's possible.
Yeah.
That is possible.
Yeah, if they're going to get themselves a forward, an impact forward, that could be the price that they would have to pay.
It probably is.
Florida is stacked up the middle with Trocheck, Barkov, Bukestad. Their problem, and we talked about it during the summer, they had no wingers.
Right.
I mean, they kept Owen Tippett around because really they were hoping maybe he could actually, he was ready at age 18 because they're so short on wingers. So they probably could find some help in terms of rentals, but I don't know how much there is left in terms of prospects with that organization.
They still have some. They do. I don't think it's totally bereft of prospects. But here's a what if kind of thing. I kept saying for the last couple of years, why didn't they play Rocco Grimaldi more? He was a right winger. He was in their organization. And Rocco Grimaldi right now this year is 3 points in 5 games for Colorado.
Yeah.
Like they just gave up on him.
And even Colorado isn't using him enough.
No. I mean, but just to show that, he may have been worthy of a look. And he never got that look. I mean, he played 7 games, 27 games for Florida. That's it.
Yeah.
27 games. By the way, I do want to answer the chat room on something.
Sure.
Kyle Whalen says, can we at least acknowledge that Hayden Fleury is up with the team and is played every game this year and whatever. We have acknowledged Hayden Fleury playing with the team. We didn't know that he was with them for the very beginning, but I think we've acknowledged him at least twice in that lineup when we've talked about all these trades.
Yeah.
As him playing, and I even talked about him in one game looking particularly good.
Yeah, and when we're talking about him like stepping up or moving up, we're not talking about him not being on the roster. We're talking about him being a top 4. This was a top 10 draft pick. He's a big body.
Right.
But the thing is that they've got Falk, Pesce, and Slavin all on long-term deals. Hanifin is an RFA coming off his entry level at the end of this year, and you have now McEwen and you have Bean and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. They're loaded on defense, and they're probably if they're going to get the 4, and obviously the Hurricanes were not on this list, which I think is wrong because I think they definitely need a forward. They are going to have to give up. That's going to be the price that they're going to have to pay to get that center because they were supposedly in on Duchene too, either a center or a winger. But they're going to have to get goal scoring. They're not going to make the playoffs with what they have right now.
No.
Okay, Montreal. We talked about ad nauseum regarding forwards. They can't score. They need more scoring. I don't know. What they have left other than Noah Juleson to trade, and I don't know if they want to trade him after trading Sergachev. So, do they trade a Charles Houdon or a Lehkonen or something like that?
I don't think they can afford to. I think they have to roll with what they've got right now, and then maybe see later in the season, maybe they have to pull that Galchenyuk deal if they're in contention still.
Right.
But I don't know. They just don't have the offensive push. You're right about that.
Now they list the Rangers here, and obviously
for center. Yeah, because if they get a center, they could be a team that goes pretty far in the playoffs. I still think they'll make the playoffs, but they need a center probably to do it.
Yeah, and I keep going back to if San Jose drops out, and I'm not looking at the standings right now, so I don't know where they are right now, but I think they're outside on the outside looking in right now. If they're not in the playoff race when it gets close to the deadline, which I think is February 26th, I think we've mentioned it a couple times. I think Joe Thornton to the Rangers would make all. It would make
sense, and that's a Rangers kind of trade, unfortunately. But yeah, although Joe wouldn't like being interviewed as much as he would get interviewed there. That's the part that Joe would have to deal with.
Would Al Troutwig make him trim his beard?
I don't think so. Here's the team that is not on that list, right? But I talked about them this morning. You know, the Boston Bruins right now without Marchand, Krejci.
Oh, they're on the list. We mentioned them. Right off the bat, Anaheim and Boston. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I think I was looking up something. Here's the thing I want to say about Boston since I slept through that. Right now, and I knew they had a lot of injuries. You know, we knew Backes was out. But also Krejci, I didn't realize that Marchand and Bjork didn't make the trip, this 2-game road trip. So you don't have Bjork, you don't have Krejci, you don't have Marchand, you don't have Backes, right? And they're still hanging around.
Well, I mean, right. They were without.
But they may need to make a trade with all the injuries they're getting.
They were without Marchand for a bit, but he did come back for the back-to-back against Toronto, and he played okay. I mean, he's
he's back out for a couple of games now.
Okay, I mean their problem is they're putting all their eggs in one basket. They were putting Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron on the top line and overplaying them because really they had nobody else who could score goals.
Yeah, but they do need to trade for a forward because even when these guys come back, they're going in and out of the lineup. So they probably do need that other forward. Yeah, and I don't think they need somebody great. Like I think a third liner would be fine for them.
Yeah. Or probably a rental, and that probably will cost them a ton. The other teams on the list, just to finish it up here, Ottawa. Now, I found it curious. Now, Ottawa, they get Duchesne. They added Alex Burrows at the deadline last year as some veteran experience. They have youngsters. They're, Colin White got it. I think it was a broken wrist or a broken hand blocking a shot in the preseason. He's probably coming back pretty soon, and I would assume he's going to get inserted back in the lineup. So, I'm struggling to see where now if it's to replace Clark MacArthur, who they may have thought that he was going to take up a spot. Okay, I mean, I don't think scoring is that much of a problem for Ottawa. I think they could solve it internally, but this might be the case, Russ, where they're going for it the next 2 years with Carlson on his current contract, with Duchesne signed, and they're just going to, they're going to make that deal to make a concerted. I mean, personally, I don't think they're getting past Tampa. Honestly,
no. But here's the thing: they could try and make that deal, and even though they look, okay, they may want to try and fortify. And right now, Alex Fermenton has looked great in the Canada-Russia series. He would be a good trade chip.
Yeah, that's true. And, I don't think they want to trade Shabbat or Logan Brown.
But Fermenton is a guy that has a lot of potential, and you probably could get him for a rental.
Yeah. St. Louis, now they had all those injuries early in the year, but most of the players, Steen came back. Now they're without Fabry for the entire year, so that's probably the reason why they're looking for a little more scoring. And but I mean, they seem to be doing pretty good right now. I mean, Tarasenko's having a good year. They got Stastny back. They got Bouwmeester back on the blue line. Allen's having a good year. This could be again a team that's close.
Is he having a good year though? Here's the thing:
he's winning. I mean,
he's winning. His save percentage is .908. Yeah. And his goals against is 2.83. Like he is that goalie when you want to talk about Mike Vernon or any of those other guys, the guys that have won cups that aren't great goalies, if they somehow win the Stanley Cup, he's going to be in that list.
Here's the one team on this list that I don't agree with because and again, maybe they will add somebody just as, because they're a top contender, you add a veteran piece. Well, they added veteran pieces during the offseason. They signed Chris Kunitz, and I'm talking about Tampa Bay. They signed Chris Kunitz. Ryan Callahan is back. Stamkos is back. They're loaded up front. Yeah. But Braden Point is a really good young player. They have a couple prospects down in Syracuse that I saw. Yanni Gord was up with the Lightning, and he's playing well in a bottom six role. Adam Ernie impressed me during the playoffs with Syracuse. You said that maybe they possibly soured on him.
Like John Cooper doesn't like him. Like why?
Yeah,
is he getting looks?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, we know that John Cooper likes certain players and doesn't. Jonathan Drouin. So, that and he'll play Conacher, even though Conacher is, I think, a borderline NHLer. He will, he's given him many chances over the last few years. So maybe he's just looking for that one extra.
Now, Ern has not been lighting it up, right? He only has 5 points. No. He has a guy that has overcome some injuries, and he did get a 26-game look last year, only 3 goals. But all that said, he's still only 22, and he has size. Why not occasionally call him up and just see? Because at this point, he's into his 3rd year with Syracuse. At some point, you got to really see what he's got.
And maybe he's the price that you pay to get that veteran forward.
At this point, it's probably going to be the case.
Right. And a team that's not on the list because they're not looking for forwards, but they have extra forwards. And in Toronto, you've got Soshnikov and Josh Levo. Now, I don't know if they're anything more than 3rd or 4th liners on other teams, but these teams are looking not only for top 6 answers, they're looking for depth. And Toronto's
in conditional picks for those guys. Much.
Maybe, but I don't see. That's the thing. I don't think they'll trade them for conditional picks.
Yeah, then they're crazy because they're going to end up. The Leafs are going to end up with just a lot of 3rd and 4th liners now, unless they just trade them at the draft for 6th and 7th round picks. Like that's what's going to probably happen.
Well, if Levo's got to play, I think it's like 34 games before the end of the season to prevent being a Group 6 UFA. So more than likely, he's not going to play that many games. So he could probably be traded by the deadline because they're going to lose him for nothing anyway. Soshnikov
consideration. Levo is definitely a conditional pick.
Soshnikov, I think they're going to keep because Babcock likes him. It's just a numbers game right now.
Doesn't like him enough to play him.
No, I think it's been injured. He played him 56 games last year. He got injured.
Right.
And this year they added Marleau, and they have guys like Connor Brown playing 4th-line minutes. So there really is a glut of forward.
Yeah, but who's playing over him that couldn't possibly be out of the lineup? It's not like the Leafs have this lineup where you can't replace him.
Babcock values Matt Martin in the lineup.
That's the guy, really.
Well, but Matt Martin, believe me, there's not a scintilla of toughness in that roster other than Kadri, Komarov, and Matt Martin. Nobody to hold anybody accountable. And
but is that toughness really getting them wins?
I think it's preventing people. I think it's preventing players from getting freight trained. I really do. And honestly, if you don't want someone taking runs at Mitch Marner, take Matt Martin out of the lineup. You'll find out pretty quickly.
But like as an example, he was a -2 against New Jersey. What did he do in those 8 minutes of ice time?
What, Matt? You're talking about Matt Martin?
Matt Martin.
Well, that game was a while back.
I know, but I'm just saying, you look at these games and he's literally getting more than 10 minutes of ice time.
8-9 minutes. But Babcock.
He had against Boston, he had 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, but Babcock believes in him as a guy who can roll on the 4th line and be a deterrent, and they need that. So, and
you need that every game? No, you don't.
Well, he believes so. So
I know. Do you believe so, Mike? That's the question.
I actually do.
See, I don't. I think it's crazy.
It's not free. It's not Fraser McLaren or Colton Orr. He's not a liability on the ice compared to those guys.
But he's not much better either.
I think he's significantly better than them. But anyway,
he's got 3 points and he's a minus guy. I mean,
and he got all 3 points in one game.
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Yeah. On that note. We will be back at some time tomorrow. I will be up in Toronto, so we'll stay tuned to my Twitter feed or Russ's Twitter feed to tell you what time the show will be. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.